What's up, guys? Welcome to Primetime Carolina. And before we get started, if you have not subscribed to our channel, what are you doing? We stay live, we stay current here, talking all kinds of Carolina Panthers news. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. But with that being said, how about them Carolina Panthers? Just one game out of the NFC South lead, tied for the lead at least. Panthers get a very, very big and unexpected win over the Tampa Bay Bucks, 21-3. Dave, what's going on, man? It's the other day we're talking about a fire sale, and then the next we're talking about possibly being in the lead for the division, maybe.
It's a tough team to figure out, Tanner. Currently sitting one game out of first place in the division, one game out of first place in the 2023 NFL draft. So we're sitting at quite a fork in the road, and we're going to have to start making some decisions on what we want to do with this season because it might not be over. It might be time to give up. It just depends on who you ask.
It depends on who you ask, and that's a good way of bringing up a good point. Is the fan base after this game was pretty much divided. I think everybody was in the boat of wanting to potentially lose a lot of games, tank the season to get a better draft pick. But I'm going to say this. Listen, this is not the NBA, okay? It's very, very hard to get 53 guys to, you're not really going to get the players to tank. That's just not going to happen. They have too much pride and they've got too many incentives in terms of bonuses and things like that. And they work too hard to go out on the field and lose. So the tanking really comes from the front office perspective of getting rid of players and trying to get draft picks and kind of what their MO is. But I want to say this to any fan that is, a fan of tanking. I understand because I've been there before. I've said it a bunch of times. And I understand, you want to get a higher pick, but at the same time, people say we want the Panthers to lose. Well, you know what? That to me, that does something to your organization, the culture and psychologically, because you look at some of the perennial losers that have been tanking for a long time, the Jets, the Jags, the whoever, the Texans. I mean, the Jets are doing well this year, but I think it does a lot to your culture and to your fan base to be a proponent of losing and instead of trying to win games. And I'm not saying the Panthers are going to go on a playoff run here. I'm not saying we're going to win the division. Who knows what the hell is going to happen? We could be here next week talking about how we got scraped by the Falcons and we're back to square one. All I'm saying is that I understand people want a higher draft pick, but those guys get paid too, and they are not going to lay down and they are not going to submit to a losing culture. They've lost too many games already. They win one game, that's infectious to them, and they want to keep winning. They want to win. They're not going to lay down just so the Panthers can have a higher draft pick next year because a lot of these guys won't even be on the team next year.
Yeah, I would never expect players and coaches to lay down and lose, and that's something I don't think you ever see in the NFL. There's just too much pride in the NFL. Football is such a, such a commitment that these guys are never going to say, all right, let's go lose. You put way too much into it to go out there and play one game a week. No one wants to lose. These guys want to win. They're professionals, coaches are professionals. I get all that. But from a fan perspective, I totally understand as well why you would want to lose, because if you're looking at team building, the easiest way to build your team is to get those high draft picks. So totally get it. Totally get it. But it's amazing how much things can change in 1 week. Most of our fan base was talking about the tanking, the number one pick. What do we have to do to get the number one pick? Keep losing. We got to lose to them. We need these guys to win, so we can keep out tanking them. But when your team responds the way the Panthers have to their new head coach, and plays a game like they played on Sunday, it's hard for fans to not feel like the season's not over, especially like I said before, they're only one game out of first place in their division, which is absolutely insane to think about. But man, shout out to some of these guys. PJ played out of his mind. Dante Foreman, Chuba Hubbard, I think combined for something like 170 yards rushing.
Did you just praise Chuba Hubbard?
It was mostly aimed at Donta Foreman. Don't worry. And DJ Moore finally had a good game. The defense was outstanding. Brian Burns gets a sack. Tom Brady looked like he looked like he was the XFL superstar out there, and PJ Walker looked like he was the GOAT. So quite a day for the Panthers. And yeah, I mean, I was leading the tank. So I was driving the tank. So now we're in a position where it's hard to not want to see the team keep stringing together some wins. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, but ultimately, if the Panthers do win enough games to win this division, then you're putting yourself in a position where we're kind of right back where we started with the whole quarterback problem. But at the same time, maybe that's not the worst thing in the world. You just keep playing until you find yourself in a position to pick up a guy, I guess.
So that's a good point that you bring up, because it's got a little stat here for you. I wouldn't really call it a stat, but just so let's look at the since 2012. I want to tell you the top 3 quarterbacks taken in those draft classes. So obviously 2012, we had Andrew Luck and Robert Griffin III. Andrew Luck was on his way to a Hall of Fame career. RG3, his rookie year, looked fantastic. Injuries killed him. So Andrew Luck retired early. He was a good quarterback before then. 2013, it looks like I don't believe there was a quarterback draft in the first round. 2014, Blake Bortles was the first quarterback drafted. 2015, Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota were the first 2 quarterbacks taken. 2016, Jared Goff and Carson Wentz were the first 2 quarterbacks taken. 2017, Mitch Trubisky was the first quarterback taken. 2018, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold were the first quarterbacks taken. 2019, Kyler Murray, he's hit or miss. 2020, Joe Burrow, he's been very nice. 2021, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, the verdict is still out. My point being is that, yes, it is very important to, if you're rebuilding, to have a quarterback, that's the most important position. But I will say that looking at that, it is also very possible that getting the first pick does not necessarily guarantee you're going to draft a top flight quarterback that's going to change your ways, because we've seen these guys that have been drafted in the top quarterbacks. Should they have been drafted that high? Some of them probably not. So that's just something to think about. Yes, I do want the Panthers to have a franchise quarterback, and I will think they will get one next year at some point. But having a high pick does not necessarily mean you're going to get the correct answer.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying. I mean, that's a fair point. But for me, that point is also similar to the whole he came from a school that doesn't produce successful NFL quarterbacks argument. People point to Ohio State all the time. And to me, I don't know. It just doesn't feel fair to me to write guys off because of guys who came before them. That just seems kind of silly. But I totally understand what you're saying. Just because you have that high pick doesn't mean you're going to hit. And I mean, if the Panthers, it feels so silly having this conversation, but you almost have to have it when they're 1 game out of first place in the division, 2-0 in the division, with a ton of division games coming up still. 2 out of the next 3, I think, are in the division. Is the schedule right here? Anyway, I think 2 out of the next 3 are in the division against the Falcons. So, if the Panthers are somehow able to do this thing and come out of this season with a division championship under their belt, that's going to push them towards the end of the first round. Even if they lose in that first playoff game they play, they're going to be 22, 24, whatever that pick is. So yeah, I mean, there will be some quarterbacks there, obviously, still, if they decide to go that route. But we still have Matt Corral on the roster, so I'm not going to, maybe next year we roll with Matt Corral. We build the team, keep building the team around the quarterback, give him a shot for a year. If it works out, great. If not, then that's when we go find another guy. So, I mean, I guess, it's good to just keep building the team until you find the right guy. And the Seattle Seahawks were a great example of that with Russell Wilson. They built that team so strong that when they finally found the guy that they felt like was their guy, they plugged him in there and they went to back-to-back Super Bowls, and they should have won both of them if they handed the ball to Marshawn Lynch. But that's a whole nother conversation.
He's
But
playing really well this year, isn't he?
yeah, well, that's what I'm gonna say. You take him out of that situation, and all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, maybe he wasn't so good. So I mean, it really is important to build the entire team and not just rely on a quarterback. So, and that's something Scott Fitter has talked about too, who was there in Seattle when they did that. He understands that you need to build everything, and then once you have that guy, you can plug in there. And he talks about that all the time. Once you find a guy you can plug in there and win, you roll with it. So who knows, maybe PJ's that guy this year, Matt Corral's that guy next year, and eventually the chips will fall where they fall, and the Panthers will have a chance to find a franchise quarterback.
How about this as well? Let's say the Panthers do make the playoffs and they win the division. Panthers have a first-round pick. They have 2 second-round picks, and they have multiple late-round picks. It is very possible that the Panthers could make the playoffs with a losing record or a very subpar winning record, and then maybe trade up into the first to get a quarterback. So I think that is also an option as well. I'm not trying to get too ahead of myself. I'm just, there's areas that they have to work with. And, if you ask me at the end of the day, I want to win, man. I do. Like Sunday was a feeling I have not felt in
It felt good,
a
didn't
long
it?
time. I can't tell you the last time the Panthers had a convincing win. I mean, we've won some games here and there the past 3 seasons, not many, but they were not very convincing wins. Even when we were winning some of these games, they were, we didn't really look that good. We kind of snuck it out. This could have been better. Panthers, I mean, they played well in every facet of the game, and it felt good to win, man. And then you look and you say, hey, you're only a game back. It's so hard as a fan and as someone that, for a team that has not won in so long, you just, yes, you want to look toward the future, but damn, dude, it feels good to win. And it just, you root for those guys. I tell you what, I don't know if you watched that press conference, or not press conference, that locker room when they won that game, dude. I had a tear roll down my eye. I was so happy. That felt so good.
Yeah,
I felt
absolutely.
like I was in that locker room there, and it felt so good. And shout out to Tepper, man. He went in there. A lot of people were giving him shit, but I disagree. He went in there. He gave that game ball to Steve Wilkes, and that meant a lot to him. I think that was a very, very nice thing for him to do, and that was well earned, well deserved.
Yeah, it was good to see. I love seeing Steve Wilkes have some success, and I hope I mean, he's such a good dude, obviously, and he's such a good coach. And obviously, in Arizona, he was given a terrible opportunity. He was set up to fail. He was given nothing to work with. Josh Rosen was their top 10 pick that year, and once they didn't win, they immediately cut him for Cliff Kingsbury, who has been so in the NFL. So
Correct.
tough to see a good man have to go through that, but I'm glad to see that he was able to have a good day on Sunday, and hopefully we'll keep those rolling. What were your thoughts? Did you have any big takeaways from this game on Sunday?
Just seeing, like I said, it's just seeing every why can I not speak right now? Every single team, every single part of the team was working so well. The offense played well. The defense played well. The special teams played well. I mean, it's been so long since in all 3 facets of the game, the Panthers have played well. I mean, usually the past couple of years, it's been the defense has been trying to do as much as they can, and the offense has been horrible. And then, once the offense kind of can figure it out, the defense is so tired that it doesn't matter. It just was so nice to see all 3 groups play as a team. And I will say that, shout out to PJ Walker. He played well. I know a lot of people give him crap previous week. Is PJ Walker the answer? I don't think so. But, it's nice to see him go out there and play. And at least the guy can throw the ball, and he's somewhat athletic, and he can throw the deep ball. DJ Moore, I mean, good God, you forgot the guy even almost existed. He had an amazing game. It was so good to see him out there. And then Terrace Marshall Jr., he had a couple grabs. It was nice to see him. I mean, there was guys that you kind of forgot about, and they were showing up. Keith Taylor had a decent game with the absence of C.J. Henderson. I mean,
How
there was
about Tay
guys everywhere.
Hayes? Tay
Yeah,
Hayes, practice squad player, preseason standout, comes in, makes a couple of plays.
that's right. So there was,
Played in
I
the
mean,
game.
there was a lot of guys that showed up to play, and Brian Burns. We'll get into this. The first round pick, they turned that down. The 2 first round picks, they turn it down. He comes out, he has a sack and a half. I mean, he played well. Derek Brown continues his tour. I don't think Derek Brown has the stats to maybe make it to the Pro Bowl this year, but he should because he's killing it.
I think
The
the
whole
Pro Bowl's
team
over.
I think I guess
Is that this year?
it might be. I wonder, are they still doing like voting as like an accolade, or is
Yeah, I
it
think it
just,
might still be an accolade. I guess you're right.
which I think it should have always been that, like, hey, this guy was a Pro Bowler. Like that's
Right, like being an All-American.
yeah, it doesn't have to be a game. Like he was a Pro Bowler. He would have been
Right.
on the team if they had it. Like that's fine. So
Well, I guess they're still like they're having like the skills competition or whatever still, or like flag game. I think they're having a flag game or something, right? I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm totally messing you up. Keep going.
no, that's pretty much what I had to say. I think they are going towards that, but no one, not one person in particular, but it was nice to see. And even Bradley Bozeman finally getting his chance to play. Finally, Elfline, whatever his name is, he gets hurt. Bozeman comes in this week. Dude, he was so much better. He was so much better.
I'm glad you brought him up because that was one of the guys I was about to highlight here. Elfline, by his standards, had played great this year to the point where we couldn't even really complain about him. But he gets hurt, and then Bozeman, the guy who most of us had been clamoring for at the start of the season, comes in this week, and he plays outstanding. And not just him. I want to give a huge shout out to the offensive line. They were outstanding in this game. They were awesome. I think they might have allowed a sack. They allowed 1 sack. But at the end of the day, in the run game, they were outstanding. Like I said, the Panthers had something like 170 rushing yards. But if you go back and watch some of these replays, they were moving people. Ikem Ekwonu is moving people. That is a franchise left tackle. The improvements he's made from week 1 are insane. The dude is a monster. I'm so happy about the Panthers offensive line. We've watched that group struggle for years and years, and look at them now. They're out there moving guys around. The Panthers are dominating teams that are on paper better than them. You ask anybody in the national media will say are better than them. Ask just about anybody to say the Bucs are better than the Panthers, but the offensive line goes out there and shows everybody that, hey, we settle this on the field. We don't settle this on paper. They move people around, gave PJ Walker time to throw. He is the best game of his career. I want to get to him in a minute because he's getting some national attention because he played so well on Sunday. So you got those guys. You mentioned Terrace Marshall had a great game, or not a great game, but he got involved, which for him is great. I feel like I'm missing somebody, but it might have been Bradley Bozeman who you brought up to start with. But the defense as a whole, that's what I wanted to shout out. 3 points to the GOAT, man. 3 points. And shout out to Steve Wilkes as well. This unit looks so much better than they did over the last 2 seasons. They look like an NFL defense. Their Achilles heel for the better part of 2 years has been third down defense. Right there, 2 for 12 on third down. That's what you want. That is good enough to win you football games. They've been so bad in those situations. And finally, they were getting off the field on third down. And look what happens. We talked about it for so long with this team. Run the ball, play defense, play good, hard-nosed, disciplined defense, get off the field on third down, create some turnovers. They did those things in this game, and they dominated. So, man, shout out to everybody. Hats off to everybody. What a game for the Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun. They everybody played so well, and you think about it, I mean, we're still down guys, especially on defense. There's no J.C. Horn. There's no Jeremy Chin.
Yeah, that's a great point. We're missing basically our best two players on defense.
Yeah, and they're still out there playing super well. It just goes to show, man, what having a good coaching staff. And you know what? I can't believe I'm saying this because this guy has been horrible all year. But Ben McAdoo, man, he called a good game. He really did. I was shocked. The Panthers. Here's another one. I don't want to get this misconstrued with what I'm about to say. The Panthers obviously traded Christian McCaffrey, which we will talk a little bit about. But they trade him, and to me, it sort of helped the offense in a way by when the Panthers were playing, when they had McCaffrey the past couple of seasons, and they didn't have a quarterback, they had no receivers really. Everybody knew that McCaffrey was going to get the ball every single time. And he did amazing when he had the opportunity, but it really made the offense predictable because they knew who was going to get the ball. And he was the only guy they had. You remove that guy, everybody's like, oh, the Panthers aren't even going to be able to get a first down at all. They're forced to rely on what they have in other guys. And you saw a 2 running back rotation. You saw multiple receivers getting involved. It was almost like, I'm not saying the Panthers are better without McCaffrey. Absolutely not. But it forced the offense to go in a direction they hadn't been in. And I think that really benefited them. And they were able to do a lot of different things.
I think the Panthers had such a commitment to the run game last week and McCaffrey's last game against the Rams that it almost put so much emphasis on the run game on tape for the Bucs that it really set up the Panthers' ability to throw some passes this week in the play action game. And especially once they got their running game going, if you're that defense, you might be thinking, these guys run the ball 80% of the time. We just watched the tape from last week. They barely threw it past the line of scrimmage. And then this week, they kind of took the training wheels off and started pushing the ball down the field a little bit more. I don't know. It's a little bit of a theory, I guess, but I like what you said about McCaffrey not being there. Same concept, kind of takes the training wheels off. You can't rely on one guy. You can't have him. He was almost a crutch, because you could always just give the ball to McCaffrey. And we saw it in this game. PJ Walker going through his progressions, finding the open guy. It's hard to say whether or not that's just a McCaffrey thing or not. But at the end of the day, the offense looked a lot better, and it was nice to see other guys get involved. And another big part of that is Robbie Anderson getting traded as well. We see guys like Terrace Marshall come in and make a couple plays. A big thing with, I think, the Panthers offense over the last season or so has been Robbie Anderson is similar to DJ Moore in that he doesn't always create the most separation. And I think he's not necessarily a guy who deserves as many snaps as he was getting. That's just my opinion. But I feel like because he was Matt Rule's guy, Matt Rule always had him on the field as the number 2 receiver, and he wasn't going to let anyone displace him in that offense. He was going to keep him in that role no matter what, and everybody else was just fighting for number 3 snaps, even if you're talking about 4 or 5 different receivers vying for one spot in the offense to get some snaps. He was not going to move Robbie Anderson. He was not going to move DJ Moore. Now, obviously, one of those players is significantly better than the other, but once the new coaching staff takes over and they tell Robbie Anderson, you're getting off the field, we're giving some of these other guys a chance to get some of these reps, that's what you get on the sideline. You get him in his coach's face and eventually kicked off the field and eventually traded.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And these past 2 games, especially this past game, really started to see a lot of other guys, step up and play. And forgot to mention, shout out to Tommy Tremble, dude. I completely forgot Tommy Tremble was even on this team. I really did. And that's a shame because I liked him coming out of college. I think he had a nice year last year. And I really wanted to see him make that jump, but he really hasn't played that much at all this year. I mean, it's been the Ian Thomas screen show. Tommy Tremble has a nice touchdown, and it's nice to see those guys play because it's tough to see what they can be in given ample time to play. And, 2 games without Matt Rule, you're seeing guys that aren't his guys step up and play. And Wilkes is evaluating and he's letting guys, do their thing and get out there and play. And that's how you're really going to be able to tell. Even if the Panthers don't make the playoffs, even if they keep losing, that's fine. At least we're giving these young guys opportunities to see if they can develop and they can play. And I think that's very important. And it also does a better job, gives a better look to Fitterer or a worse look, depending on how it goes, by saying, hey, we can't see if these guys are any good, the guys that he's drafted, if they're not playing. So that's also a plus.
I think it was really obvious with Matt Rule that he always kind of picked his favorites. And if you weren't one of those guys, you're going to have a hard time finding a role or at least a contributing role on the team. So obviously we're starting to see some new guys get in there. It's good to see, man. Love seeing Tommy Tremble contribute. And I still think he has a bright future. I think a lot of these guys, you forget just how young they are.
Yeah.
So much of this team, so much of these guys who contribute on a week-to-week basis, some of these guys we're still waiting to, come into their own, are really only second and third year players, So Trimble's a great example of one of those guys that you're kind of waiting for, Terrace Marshall. I still feel like Shi Smith I know he's kind of had a rough first half of the season, but I still feel like there's something there. He just needs to get his confidence up. I mean, same with Terrace Marshall. I feel like both those guys are still really young receivers, only in their second season. I feel like they've got a good shot to really, blossom and grow into the players that they really truly are here going into the second half of the season. So I'm excited to see what a lot of these young guys can do. And especially now that the team's got some confidence and they feel good about themselves. I mean, look out. It could happen.
I tell you what, man, I don't know. I haven't read any Falcon forum posts or Reddit posts, but I guarantee you that they are a little bit nervous about this 2-5 team coming to their stadium. And I feel like you never hear people say that, but this team after this win. I'm not saying they're going to go on a run, but this is one of those low teams that hasn't won a lot of games that you don't want to play. This is one of those trap games. Like, imagine if you're a really, really good team and you're playing a bad team like us, record wise. Panthers are a trap team that you do not want to play because they have talent and they are pissed off and hungry. And if they can keep this ball rolling, I don't know, man. Sunday is really going to say a lot whenever we play the Falcons.
I think so, because it's one thing to come out and do this when no one expects it, but now that you've done it, people aren't necessarily going to let you sneak up on them like the Bucs did here. So you're going to have to come out and put your best foot forward. But like I said, man, I'm just so excited about this offensive line. And you saw it in this game. As the game went on, they were able to move people easier and easier just because they kept wearing them down. And, you go back and you look at the 2003 Carolina Panthers. That's what they did. They played defense and they ran the ball. And look at where it got them, behind a quarterback nobody knew. So who knows, man? Who knows? The formula is there. And it really annoys me because I've been talking about it for 3 years with Matt Rule as the head coach. Run the ball and play defense. So obvious how your team's built, but yet you don't take advantage of it. Maybe they're finally about to do that. And I'm telling you, man, Al Holcomb, Steve Wilkes are transforming this defense. They're different. They look different. They look like an NFL defense. All that talent is finally being put to good use. I will say, though, I'm not being a hater. I'm just pointing some out. Dante Jackson was getting cooked on Sunday. Everybody else played a good game. Dante Jackson was getting absolutely cooked by Mike Evans.
That guy. And to think that Mike Evans, dropped that sure-handed touchdown on the first series as well.
Yeah, it's crazy how much different of a day it could have been if he caught that, huh? Who knows what could happen after that?
Yeah, I know. That's a good way of looking at it. Just a quick note. I know this isn't Panthers related, but what do you think about the Bucs? Or most importantly, Tom Brady? I mean, do you think this is it, or do you think it's just it's the same old, same old. They'll kind of get it together and show up.
Yeah, I mean, I would say yes, but I'm too old and wise at this point to do that. I remember writing Tom Brady off in 2014, and here we are,
Yeah.
2 Super Bowls later, however many he's won since then. So I will.
Yeah.
I've learned my lesson. I don't write him off ever, no matter what. I don't care if he's 64 and he's still playing. I will. He can be retired for 3 years, and I won't put anything past him. So I'm gonna say they'll be all right, but who knows? They look pretty rough right now.
Fair enough. I just wanted to see what you thought. But yeah, so the Panthers are making a little trip down to Atlanta this weekend in what will be a kind of a really intriguing matchup. If you look at the records, you wouldn't say so, but if you're a
Hey,
fan
we're
of the
playing for
NFC
first
South,
place, man.
they are playing for first place. So this does have some implications here. Panthers, I haven't watched a ton of Falcons games this year. I've kept up with them though. I think they're doing a lot better than people imagined. Obviously, Mariota hasn't been terrible. Their defense has stepped up in a lot of ways. They've kind of got some younger pieces on offense. I think their coaching staff isn't too bad. So it'll definitely be interesting to see. I haven't watched them play, but I think that they're a little bit better than people were definitely anticipating.
Yeah, absolutely. They're not, the most talented team on paper, but they play hard, and that's gotten them this far. Obviously, they had a rough week this week against the Bengals, but not many people would have circled this game and said it's going to be a big one in the NFC South. But 2 out of the next 3 weeks, we're going to be duking out with the Falcons for, supremacy in our division.
Yeah, and they should get rid of that Baker Mayfield picture in the passing yards and put PJ Walker up there instead.
Well, they put whoever's the leader, so by default he's the leader because he's played the most games.
The leader at being bad.
Yeah. But speaking of PJ, I want to give him a little shout out just because this isn't the only place I've seen this. He's been getting a lot of praise for his performance on Sunday, and it's well deserved. Pro Football Focus grade of 94.9, 6 big time throws, passer rating of 126.5, which I read somewhere that, and this may or may not be true, but I don't want to be a liar, so don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure what I saw said this was the second highest passer rating in franchise history for a single game, only behind Jake Delhomme, dating back to I don't remember what year. And I think Cam Newton was close to it one time.
Yeah, I mean, PJ does some nice things. I mean, I know last week everybody was hard on him, and we were a little hard on him last week, but I give him the benefit of the doubt because they ran the most bare bones offense possible. They didn't really give him the opportunity to kind of throw the ball, other than a handful of times. It didn't work out well. It's hard. You got to get into a rhythm. But even the couple other games that PJ started, he's 3-1 as a starter, I think now. In the couple of games he has played, he's shown the ability to, he's got a cannon, he can run, he can zip some throws in there. I think his decision making sometimes is a little tough, and that's what really kind of keeps him from maybe moving up the depth chart. But he can do some things, man. And yeah, I've never been the biggest fan, but I've never been the biggest hater. But to me, at this point, give me this guy. I don't really care to see Baker. I don't care to see Baker Mayfield play anymore. Sam Darnold, I could see that, but I feel like I've seen that before. Right now, they're behind this guy, and I think you have to run with them. It's almost like last night whenever the Patriots tried to run with Mac Jones 2 series later, they pull him out and they put Zappy in. It's like, no, they want to run with this guy. I know they didn't win the game, but that's who they wanted to go with. Right now, they want to go with PJ Walker. So, I mean, why not, man? Run it.
Yeah, I was trying to find. Oh, yeah, I saw this little video, man. he made some just outstanding throws in this game. It's wild. One of them, I don't know if they have the angle on here, but if you watch from the all 22 angle, he drops back, stands in the pocket, looks at his first read. It's not there. Rolls left a little bit. Comes back to his next read. It's not there. Comes all the way across the field. He's got DJ Moore crossing, and then there's a defender between him and DJ. He throws it past the defender as DJ runs past him. I mean, it was just an insane throw. Let's see if we can get a little bit of PJ highlights up here. Yeah, so this throw, I mean, this is one that when he threw it, I was like, dude, don't throw that. And then he threw it and completed it across. Well, they're not really working.
I think it's just because Zoom is just so laggy.
No, I don't think it's that. I think it's not even working on their website. Anyway, I don't know. I just thought about that while we were talking, but never mind. But yeah, dude, what a game by PJ. Shout out to him.
Yeah. Shout out to him. Hopefully it keeps it going. I'm in the camp of wanting to win. The Panthers will figure out their quarterback situation whenever they figure it out. It will happen this season, whether it be Matt Corral or whether they trade up for somebody or whether they suck and they end up having a top 3 pick. But man, it's been so long since the Panthers have competed, and just the fact that they even have a slimmer of a chance to compete makes me feel good and gets me excited to wake up on Sunday and put on my jersey and want to watch and want to get pissed and get happy and be sad and mad. Like I just, it's been so long. And
you missed the ride, man.
Yeah. It's, it's been the past couple of years, you just watch the games and you just have no, especially mid-season to late season, you don't get mad. You just kind of turn it on and you're like, oh, okay, whatever.
Yeah. Apathetic is the worst way to watch your favorite football team, and that's exactly what we've been. So I mean, But man, yeah, dude. Quarterback aside, the fact that I'm starting to see an identity to this team when it comes to running the ball and playing defense. If we have those two things, we have enough to get excited about. So, like I said, whoever the quarterback is, if they can go in there and just keep it moving and just be okay, I like it. Let's go win some games.
Yeah, let's do it. And I want to say that, I said this last week, and I think me and you're on the same page as well, that, the Panthers talking about the fire sale before they traded McCaffrey. This team is, people say, oh, this team, they need to rebuild, they need to start. No, they don't. This team has got the pieces. They've got the talent. They are a quarterback away from being a competitive team. I'm not saying they're going to be a Super Bowl team. I'm not saying they're a quarterback away from being the greatest team ever. But in this division right now, you give the Panthers a young quarterback or a very solid quarterback, this team is being competitive and they are at least a wild card team. This team does not need to be rebuilt. They've got nice young talent. They don't need to rebuild. I understand the McCaffrey trade. I understand maybe trading some vets. That's fine. But the core young guys that they got, the Burns, the Chins, the JC Horns, the DJ Moores, the Equanus, do not get rid of those guys. You have what you need for the future and for the long term. Get a quarterback, whoever that may be, get the coach. You're good.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe Steve Wilkes will be that coach. I'm excited. I like what I see. And like you said, man, hang on to those guys. I'm with you. Burns, Chin, Horn, whoever, Brown, these guys, it's like, why would you move on from them? Why would you move on from these guys? You have such a good young core on defense. It'd be one thing if they were older and you were trying to start, building, but you're just trading away a head start at a rebuild. You don't need to rebuild. You just need to get a quarterback and a coach. I agree with you. And you're in business. I mean, everywhere else, how many quarterbacks walk into a new team, or let's say rookie quarterbacks? How many rookie quarterbacks walk into a new team and have the weapons and the offensive line that the Panthers have.
It's rare. Like, that's what I'm telling you, is that this team, no one is going to walk into a team. Obviously, they got rid of McCaffrey, but still, you look at these teams that are drafting early. They don't have good offensive line. They don't have a good defense. They don't have good young pieces around. They typically have nothing, or
Right.
very little to nothing. And you walking into the situation, whoever they may get, you have got it better than most already.
Well, we just talked about it. The formula that they have, they can play defense and run the ball. That is the perfect situation for a rookie quarterback. I know I referenced Russell Wilson earlier. That's exactly what he did. He walked in, he was able to hand the ball to Marshawn Lynch, run the play action game, and they had the Legion of Boom on the other side. You have a team that can play defense and run the football. You're putting a rookie quarterback in a situation where he can succeed. Most rookie quarterbacks come into the league and they're in the David Carr situation. They're getting smacked around. They're getting hit more than any other player in league history, and having a defense that can't do anything on the other side. The Panthers are in a really good spot right now. So, I mean, if they're going to make a run here and try to win this division, go for it. But regardless, whoever's in that quarterback position next year is going to be in a good shot. Going to be in a good place. And like I said, it might not be the worst thing to just let Matt Corral try it. He deserves his shot too, just because he got hurt. Doesn't mean he shouldn't get his chance. And honestly, I don't really want to say this because I know it's kind of a stretch, but it is somewhat true. And I've heard it elsewhere as well. Bryce Young and Matt Corral are somewhat comparable players if you're talking about size and some of the skill set. I think Bryce Young is overall probably the more talented player, and I think he's probably the smarter player. No offense to Matt Corral, but he just seems to have it when it comes to understanding defenses and things of that nature. But if you talk about the ability to move around in the pocket, manipulate the pocket, big arm, quick release, that's all stuff that Matt Corral has. So,
yeah,
maybe it's not as big of a jump as we think from Matt Corral to Bryce Young.
I think that's a really good comparison in terms of, their skill sets and kind of what they do. I do agree that Bryce Young is in terms of on the field, he sees things, and he is a general, and he understands the field.
He comes off as that like coach on the field type of field general type of quarterback.
Yes, he knows what's always going on, and that's just something that you don't see a lot. So I do think he is the better prospect. But in terms of size and similar skill set, they are very similar. They're both smaller quarterbacks, but you didn't really see people giving Matt Corral shit about being small. I mean, yeah, they picked him in the third round as opposed to maybe a first round pick, but they are smaller guys. They do have quick releases. They can make the throws. But yeah, I think that's a good comparison. I think a lot of people don't think about that. So yeah, I think that's definitely interesting.
Yeah, I mean the Panthers are really set up pretty similar to the 2012 Seahawks team that drafted Russell Wilson and eventually went on to compete in 2 Super Bowls. So we'll see. Maybe the Panthers can start building some magic, trending in that direction.
Absolutely. I was going to ask you, what did you think about the 2 firsts for Burns being rejected?
I mean, I didn't hate it. I guess it depends on what they were. You know what I mean? If it was like 2023 first, 2024 first, I totally understand why you wouldn't accept that. I probably wouldn't accept that either. The only thing I would have listened to, and I know the Eagles were interested in Brian Burns, is if they offered their first round pick and the Saints first round pick, because the Saints first round pick is likely going to be a top 10 pick. If they offered that, I would have to at least listen to that offer. But anything else short of that, and the chances of them offering that are super low. Anything else short of that, I would not probably consider. Brian Burns is such a good player. And the thing is about taking 2 first-round picks is one of those first-round picks you're immediately going to have to use to replace Brian Burns. So now you could look at it this way as you take 2 defensive ends with those 2 picks, and you could replace Brian Burns' production or possibly, you know, add a couple sacks between the two guys. But at the end of the day, that sounds good. But just because you draft two players doesn't mean they're going to pan out. So you're taking a huge risk by doing that.
Man, it is so hard to find a pass rush in this league or a pass rusher in this league. It, you know, like you said, your point. Oh, you trade them, you get your two first, you can use them on the defensive line. I mean, that you could, but we've seen a lot of defensive ends the past couple years go on the first, late first that have flamed out, have done nothing.
Yeah. Well,
It is so hard. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think Yetur Gross-Matos is a great example of that. We took him at the top of the second round, and he has 0 sacks this season. You know what I mean? So if you're going to get 2 late first-round picks for Brian Burns, you're probably going to get 2 Yetur Gross-Matos type players, and you're sitting here with 0 sacks this year between the two of them. You know what I mean? So
exactly, and I think people just got caught up on the 2 first-round picks. Are you kidding me? That's like the greatest thing ever. Yeah, but you have to think about it that obviously they were very late first-round picks. They were
most
not
likely,
the Panthers would be crazy if they turned down the Eagles, projected pick from the Saints that they got. That's going to be a top 10 pick. There's no doubt about that. So I could understand if they made that move, then yes. But for 2 late first round picks from the Eagles, their later picks, or maybe the Chiefs or whoever, I mean, man, it's not even worth it. Whenever you got a guy who you picked in the middle of the first round a couple of years ago, who is still developing, at this point is going to have double-digit sacks this year. No, you can't trade the guy. I understand you traded for McCaffrey. People wanted it first, yes, but no, you can't do it. I agree.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning that Brian Burns isn't even close to have reached his potential yet. I mean, that dude has. I mean, the sky is the limit. He has some elite traits. If he can, figure it out, and he's trended in the right direction since he's been in the league, but I still feel like he could be the guy when it comes to pass rushing in the NFL, or at least like a top 3 player. He's not there yet, but man, he has the potential to get there.
Hey, give that guy a year with a real defensive coordinator and some good coaching.
Sadly, he really needs someone on the opposite side, man. He needs Hassan Reddick back, but
he does.
That's a whole nother conversation.
And, no matter what the Panthers do this season, whatever happens in the draft, they will definitely have to address that other side of the defensive line, because yes, Burns is good, but it's not good enough to really be an elite defense. They need another guy that can at least register a sack. I mean, come on.
Yeah, man. It's kind of an interesting thought, like, especially because I heard like the Broncos might trade Bradley Chubb. So I mean, there's potential, if the Panthers, say they win this game on Sunday, and then the next day is the trade deadline, or the day before the trade deadline. Yeah. Maybe they make a move for a defensive end, another guy on the other side who can help Brian Burns out. But at this point where we're at right now, I wouldn't like to see them trade away any draft picks, certainly, especially what we've gone through to get to where we are now and actually acquiring some draft picks. But who knows, man? If they feel like they can go on a run and make a playoff push, they might bring in another pass rusher. And, that's a name that I've heard floated around. NC State guy as well.
Yeah. And then I'm just looking at stuff here saying that, the whole fire sale, which we're only a week away from the NFL trade deadline. I think there has been some rumors about Panthers maybe trading Henry Anderson or maybe Cam Irving. Man, if they can get late round picks for those guys, veterans who won't be on the team next year, that's incredible. And it's those late round picks that allow you to help build a roster and also use those picks to move around. That's what I'm saying, is that no matter what happens this year, let's say the Panthers, make a couple more trades for some late round picks. Let's say they end up winning this division, they have a lot of ammo for next year where they can make a trade and they can move up for a quarterback. So, and I think the roster, yes, they need help, but this roster is sound enough to get to be a quarterback away from competing. So I think that if they can keep making some flips for some of these veterans for late round picks, gives you a lot more ammo for next year in the draft. So
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm with you. You want to give a score prediction for Sunday?
Yeah, we're clearly gonna blow them out 52-0. No questions asked. Man, I'm scared to make a prediction because yeah, fuck it, who cares? I put my heart out there, had it ripped into pieces, put it back together, and then thrown it back out there and ripped into pieces again. So what's another time? I think if the Panthers can play any sort of way that they played last week, I think this is going to be a good tough game between two division opponents. But if the Panthers come out like they did last week, man, I don't see how we don't win this game. I would say 24 to say 24 to 21. I mean, I think it's going to be a close game. Falcons score some points maybe, but I could be wrong. The Panthers come out and absolutely smash the Falcons. At the same time, the Panthers could come out and look like complete crap. Who knows? But I am going to go with the Panthers. I think there's a little something there, man. I really do.
Yeah. I was on the Buccaneers podcast last week before the Bucks game, and my score prediction was 27-10 Bucks. So the Panthers really made me look stupid on that one. I'm hoping they come through for me here.
So maybe we should stop picking them to win. Go Falcons.
Yeah, that might be the key here, the secret. I'm gonna go 20-17 Panthers.
I'm with it, man.
I'm with it.
And I do not think the Bucks are going to beat the Ravens on a Thursday night football.
Yeah. It would be pretty damn impressive if that offense came out and turned it around against the Ravens defense on a short week after what we saw from them on Sunday against the Panthers. So
yeah,
crazier things have happened, but I expect them to lose as well, and I expect us to be playing for the division on Sunday, which is absolutely insane to think about.
Crazy, man. It's crazy, but hey, 2014, it happened 7-8-1, and that team, man, they went on to win a game in the playoffs, and they weren't the best team, but hey, they made it.
I'll point out the difference between that team and this team was the quarterback position. No offense to PJ. No offense to PJ.
Very true. Very true.
He's not Cam Newton.
He's not, unfortunately, but it's okay. Yeah, man, I'm pumped. I'm excited. I'm very much looking forward to this game, and I just hope the Panthers give us something to hang our hats on, man. I mean, if they lose, at least let it be competitive. I think it would be really demoralizing for them to come out and just get squashed after what just happened. That would be quite embarrassing. Like if you're gonna lose, like okay, but at least like make it competitive. Come out and just get like squashed. Like I'm gonna be like, dude. Nah.
These are the Carolina Panthers, man. I would not be surprised by anything.
You never know, but we'll see. But with that being said, man, thank you guys for sticking with us throughout this season. It's been some ups, been some downs, but maybe, just maybe, we're on an uptrend, and we want to enjoy this ride for everything that we can. So, like we said earlier, if you haven't checked out the channel, trying to get close to 600 subs. I think we're at 560, something like that. We're close. So keep this thing trending up, man.
Appreciate everybody watching. Tanner, it's been an honor. Keep pounding. Go Panthers.